Welcome to another episode of Confidently Speaking with DOC. I am your host, David Doc Shirey, author of the book Rare Confidence, Strategies and Inspiration to Strengthen Your Belief that you can achieve anything. We have another great show on tap for you tonight. Episode number 8. Number 8 already. We have got a real live doctor in the house. And not just any doctor. We've got a doctor who literally trains thousands of other doctors to literally not just treat symptoms, but to get to the root of the problem. You guys are going to love our guest tonight. As always, I want to remind you, this is a participatory program and it requires your participation. Please continue to submit your comments, ask questions, especially tonight. Like I said, we got a real live doctor in the house and he is as good as it gets. So submit your questions, and always, as I ask, if you could hit that share button, that will allow the reach of the program to really continue to grow and allow us to attract national guests. We have some incredible guests coming up in the next few weeks, and I'm really, really excited about that. Is it nuts out in the world right now, or what?
Man, we live in some crazy times for sure. When all else around us is uncertain, it's even more important than ever that we focus on our health. Because let's be honest, without our health, we've got nothing. We know it's important to live a healthy lifestyle, but we don't always know exactly what that means or how to make good choices. Eating right, exercise, those are fairly obvious answers to way more complex questions. A lot of folks put on a couple extra pounds during the national coronavirus lockdown. So the question now is, how do you get them off safely and quickly? Intermittent fasting is all the rage these days, but there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. We're seeing a spike in COVID cases as America opens back up. So how do we get on the other side of this? Herd immunity is something that we hear about often, and we're going to dig into that a little bit tonight as well. Should I wear a mask or should I not wear a mask? That is the question. A lot of businesses aren't going to let you in without one. What is inflammation? Inflammation is a buzzword these days, and we're going to dig into how it negatively can affect your health. It can actually cause a wide variety of issues, so it's really important to pay attention to. And is the sun really as bad for you as we've been hearing all these years? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. The devil, my friend, is in the details. Our guest tonight is a global leader in the health and wellness industry. He travels across the country educating other doctors and the public on the root causes of inflammation-driven diseases, such as weight loss resistance, diabetes, chronic fatigue syndrome, autoimmune disorders, and other chronic conditions. He became passionate about natural medicine from his own personal battle. He had to overcome serious neurotoxic illness and heavy metal poisoning using the cellular detoxification strategies learned in his journey back to health. He's a relentless self-experimenter, and he's been studying, practicing, and teaching true cellular detox for over 2 decades. His methodology runs counter to mainstream tactics, which focus on suppressing symptoms by seeking the root cause of illness and removing it so the body can execute the healing. I am thrilled to welcome to the show my man, Dr. Danny Pompa.
Dr. Pompa, how are you?
Doing well. I can tell who knows me long or who knows my wife when they call me Danny. That either means that you knew me from my childhood or you know my wife. In this case, you know my wife very well.
I do. And I'm going to keep you doctor tonight because this is going to live on the internet forever, but you'll always be Danny to me.
You can call me Danny the whole time. You can call me Danny. It's all right.
All right, doctor. So you've had me on your show a few times, and I could not wait to return the favor. And even more so, I know that you and your beautiful wife, Mary Lee, just landed in Tampa, and you're probably ready to go out and have a nice dinner, and you're delaying your dinner to sit here and BS with me tonight. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate it.
Well, I would love to say, hey, man, it's just you, but I actually have another webinar right after this one. But I would do it for you too. So
I know you would. I know you would. All right, well, let's get right to it then. Listen, Dr. Pompa, you have such a wealth of knowledge on so many things, and I really want it to be fast moving tonight so we can hit on a bunch of these things. We're going to take questions from the viewers, and we're going to just dig into what's on people's mind. First and foremost, during the lockdown, or as I call it, the cronizzle. As a matter of fact, I had one viewer tell me in a private message, Doc, I hate when you call it the cronizzle. It makes me cringe. So just because of that, I'm going to say it 3 times. Cronizzle, cronizzle, cronizzle. All right. During the lockdown, quite a few of us put on a couple extra pounds, right? I mean, this young lady, God bless her, and, a lot of guys were no different. So one of the things I want to do here right off the bat, Dr. Pompa, is I want to get to 5 questions that when I really researched what do people want to know about weight loss, these 5 questions kept coming up over and over and over. So let's go through them relatively quickly, if we will. And the first one is people want to know, how fast can I lose weight? How, like what are the expectations for me to drop 15 pounds? How fast could somebody do that?
Well, hey, if you fasted, you could lose a half a pound a day healthy, even a pound sometimes in the very beginning. But that's about the max you can do healthy. So, depends on the person as well.
All right, great. We're going to dig into fasting here very quickly. Another question that people ask all the time, and I know, I probably put on 6 or 7 during the lockdown myself, and I got a little extra around the gut here. And I know women sometimes say, we've got these bat wings. Can somebody lose weight in a certain area? Is there a way to forget about exercise? Is there a way to try to lose weight in a certain area?
No. Spot reduction, as it's called, is no. That's a no-no. It doesn't happen that way. Now, with that said, when you lose weight, you may lose weight in a specific area. Most likely, probably the area you don't want to lose weight in. But it can happen randomly, but not where you want it.
All right, great. All right, let's move on to the next one. Now, I know, and you know that I know that both diet and exercise are critical. But when you're talking about weight loss, is one of them more important than the other?
Well, that scale is correct. The food is far more important than the exercise. I always call exercise the cherry on the top, meaning that you should be able to lose weight, stay lean without exercise. Now, look, I'm a big proponent of exercise, not against it. However, exercise, really, it's blown up to the point where the message is, in America, we're gluttons. We eat too much and we're lazy. We don't exercise enough. And neither of those are actually accurate.
All right. So the next question is, and this we all know, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And you see advertisements for all the time. Do supplements and pills really work? Can they really help you to lose weight?
Well, look, certain supplements, people would say, well, I took this ephedrine type of supplement. And yes, it can work, actually. Now, does that make it necessarily healthy? The answer is no. So working in health, not exactly the same thing. However, with that said, I would say that there's certain supplements that might be beneficial for people, because there's certain supplements that can help people control their blood sugar, which that would help weight loss. But there's no magic pill, I think, is the answer you're looking for.
One of the questions you hear all the time from people that are looking to lose weight is cardio versus strength training. Is one of them better than the other for simply trying to lose weight?
Yeah. Yeah, this answer may surprise you. The weights resistive training, as it's known, is actually better than the cardio. And there's a reason for that. Because the cherry on the top is, I called exercise. It does give you a hormone optimization, meaning that when you exercise, you can kind of get this hormonal push in the right direction. Well, that actually works better with resistive training. So if you go out and get in the fat burning zone with cardio, like we were taught, right? You can burn fat for that half hour, maybe if you're really disciplined, the hour and a half, right? But that's burning fat for that hour and a half. However, resistive training actually creates a growth hormone surge, which allows you to burn fat for 36, 42 hours. So the question is which would you rather do? Burn fat for the hour on the treadmill, or burn fat for 36 hours when you're sitting home, later that night, the next day? So resistive training actually, because of the hormone optimization, can actually create more of a fat loss or a fat burning longer. But by the way, when you're doing it, you're not burning fat. That's the irony, but you're burning fat later.
It's kind of counterintuitive.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, really
again, with that said, I'm not against cardio. There's other benefits to cardio, right? But the question was, which would I choose if weight loss was the goal? It would be resistive training over cardio.
Great. All right. Now I want to move on to a subject we kind of touched on, I know is near and dear to your heart.
Intermittent fasting daily in caloric restriction, because I need to do this video because I've had to address this so many times, and I say every time, gosh, the difference is huge.
So before we really dig in to your unique take on intermittent fasting, Doctor, can you share maybe for the people out there that aren't real familiar, basically, why does intermittent fasting work?
Mm-hmm. First of all, let's say what it is, right? Intermittent fasting is when let's say I eat tonight at 6 o'clock. So there you go. I go around the clock and I don't eat till 6 in the morning, right? So I ate my dinner. I went to bed at some point. I haven't eaten through the night, hopefully not. I wake up at 6 a.m. Okay, that's 12 hours. Okay, so I don't eat breakfast yet. I pushed it out a little longer. And so if I go 6 more hours till noon, now I've just fasted 18 hours. Okay, so that is an intermittent fast. So we eat our meals in a squished window of maybe 8 hours, 6 hours, or maybe even 4 hours. So that is what intermittent fasting daily is. So the question was, why does it work? Is that what the first question was?
Yeah, what is it about intermittent fasting that makes it work?
Yeah. Well, look, one of the things I was saying in that video is that caloric restriction, what is the difference? All right, we're going to get into a whole can of worms here, right? And I'm going to avoid that. But caloric restriction, I'm not a fan of. Caloric restriction works on the short term, meaning that if you cut your calories, you could lose 10, 15, 20 pounds. But the problem is the metabolism adjusts, and it gets lower and lower and lower to the point where you could be eating 500 calories a day, and you would literally be losing muscle in gaining fat in the wrong places. I call it skinny fat. So it doesn't work long term. Caloric restriction works short term. Now, intermittent fasting, at the end of the day, you do tend to eat less. So I've been intermittent fasting before it was ever popular, where I typically eat in a 6 hour, 4 hour window. And some days I only eat one meal. Now, the point is at the end of the day, I absolutely eat less calories. The difference, Doc, is this. My body doesn't think it's starving. Why? And I'll tell you why that's important. It's because I eat to full at least one meal a day. Therefore, my body goes, okay, I don't lack, and therefore I'm not going to pull back into a starvation mode and lower my metabolism. Now, if you're just cutting calories every meal, the body will go starvation, and it will start to slow its metabolism down. Why? Because all your body wants to do is survive. So my saying is, eat less, but do it by eating less often. So that's the key, is eat less, but do it by eating less often. Look, Doc, when we look at all the studies on anti-aging, eating less is the key. Nothing works except eating less.
Right.
But we don't do it by pushing food away halfway through a meal. We do it by eating less often.
Right. And here are some of the benefits of intermittent fasting as well. And really, a lot of the things that you've just talked about. I want to talk a little bit about detox and fasting, because I know that's a favorite subject of yours.
Look, this is an art, the detox and the fasting, and it's an art that you need to learn in today's day and age because.
Now, before we even go any further, I need to highlight your incredible choice of clothing there. That is just one of the best looking sweatshirts that I have ever seen. It's a Rare Confidence Get Some that I believe you are available at rareconfidenceshop.com. Just a little plug there, but totally awesome choice of sweatshirts there, Dr. Pompa. So let's talk about detox and fasting a little bit.
I thought you wanted to talk about your sweatshirt. I think our family wears more of Doc's sweatshirts than his family. I'm just saying.
That is a comfortable sweatshirt.
It is.
It is. So detox. How does detox and fasting go hand in hand?
Well, look, fasting, whether it's, as I just said, 18 hours, even 15 hours, meaning, again, it's fasted through the night, push the breakfast out a little bit. Let's just say you fasted for 15 hours. There's something that happens in that fasting state called autophagy. The 2016 Nobel Prize was won by a Japanese gentleman who really put that term on the map, so to speak. And let me explain what the term means. That means in a fasting state, the body will literally eat bad cells. These are cells that could cause cancer later. These are cells that malfunction. These are lazy immune cells or hyperactive immune cells that cause inflammation, allergies, food intolerances, simply make you not feel good. During a fasting state, via this autophagy, the body's so smart, it doesn't eat your good cells for energy. It actually eats the bad ones. That's called autophagy. So that is technically a detox. The body will get rid of toxic cells. The body will get rid of bad functioning cells, bad immune system cells. And here's the best part, is that not only does it get rid of the bad ones for its fuel, but it's so smart that it actually stimulates a stem cell and recreates a new cell to replace it. So if, for example, this is why we utilize these fasting strategies for immune challenges, autoimmune, whatever it is. But what we do is we recreate a new immune system this way. The body via autophagy gets rid of the bad immune cell, and then via the stem cell creates a new one that's not hyperactive, that's good, it's strong, right? So that's the point of the detox fasting combination, if you will.
All right, I want to get to a couple audience questions for you, Dr. Pompa. And Pam wants to know, what about intermittent fasting for diabetics?
Yeah, so I would argue, and my doctors as a group would say, we couldn't help diabetics without intermittent fasting. And I have many fasting strategies. My book, Beyond Fasting, it's actually a plan on how to even do a longer fast. There's the book right there, an extended fast of 5 days where you really get a lot of this autophagy. There was a study, and in the book, by the way, when we're going to talk, I'm sure you'll ask me the question of different types of fasts. We're kind of on the subject of daily intermittent fasting, but you can do a longer fast. And there was a study done by a gentleman, Walter Longo, who I've been blessed to be, brought into his group. But they did a study on type 1 diabetic rats. And here's the amazing part about the study. They did a partial fast, which he calls a fasting mimicking diet, where they just eat about 500 to 1,000 calories. That's human calories. I'm giving you the human number there, a day. So instead of just not eating food at all, which I'm a fan of, that's called a water fast, we do a partial fast. In this study, they did a partial fast with the rats. They did that 5 times, 5 days each month. Here was the results of the study. That the type 1 diabetic rats actually regained beta cells. What are those? That's the cells in your pancreas that make insulin. Most type 1 is autoimmune, where the body attacks those cells and you end up as a type 1 diabetic. Well, to the amazement, I think, even of the people doing the study, is that the rats actually gained those cells back. Why? Because of the autophagy stem cell creation. So the body was eating the bad cells and creating new cells. And in this case, it was beta cells. They're doing that study right now in humans. And again, mostly type 2 diabetes is where we can see pretty immediate results with these different fasting strategies.
All right. Dave Kadosh has a question for you.
I know,
Dr.
Dave.
Pompa. Yeah, good guy. My man. He wants you to talk about the pros and cons of no-carb Atkins type diets.
Well, look, when you read my book there, I give 2 chapters to what I call diet variation. So I'm not the guy that hangs his hat in any one diet because I believe that the magic of diet is actually dietary change. And I believe that every ancient culture actually supports my argument, meaning ancient cultures were forced to change their diets, whether it be environmental changes, lack of food, drought, whatever it was. But what we've learned, and the science shows this, is that when you do change your diet, you get a hormone optimization. Your microbiome, which is your gut bacteria, literally changes to this adapted food change and therefore actually promotes incredible health. So we know that when we make a dietary change, it's a good thing. So to answer your question, low carb, no carb, I'm all for it for a period of time. Stay on an Atkins diet. Well, look, Atkins diet, it can be a dirty low carb diet where you're eating, just tons of really dirty meats, non-grass fed meats. So I'm not a fan of that. Okay. But if you went low carb for periods of time, high healthy carbs for periods of time, it's actually a principle that I call diet variation, and that creates a hormone optimization. So not for dirty Atkins, not for dirty keto, which ketosis, maybe that's another question. It's a low carb diet where it's a little higher in fat, and it gets your body so starved down at the cellular level with carbohydrates that it forces it to burn fat. And when it burns fat, it makes something called ketones, which one of the things ketosis. And we utilize ketosis. We utilize it for many, many different types of conditions, brain conditions, autoimmune conditions, fixing the gut. But again, ketosis is very in vogue right now. But I'm not a fan of keeping someone in ketosis forever. I don't believe any ancient culture did that, but I believe every ancient culture was forced into times of so low carb that it puts you into a state of ketosis, which is magic for literally resetting even your DNA in your body, your genes.
Got it. All right. I want to move on to another subject right now. And really, this is a subject that I don't know all that much about, and I'm hoping to learn a little bit more from you tonight, Doctor. And actually, as I was preparing for this show, I learned a little bit more, and that is inflammation. And I do know that it's your body's way of protecting itself from infections. And I've learned that there's 2 kinds, right? There's acute, which is short-term, redness, pain, heat, and swelling. And then there's chronic, long-term inflammation that occurs inside your body. Sometimes you don't even notice these symptoms, and those can cause really bad heart disease, diabetes, cancer, all that sort of thing. So I guess my question to you, doctor, is can you help me understand why acute can be good, but the chronic is not good?
Yeah, acute is an immune reaction. Your body raises up these different antibodies, and it can create, releases something called cytokines that creates and triggers your immune system, your immune cells, and it tells it to attack, and it's good. However, if that inflammation lasts, now it becomes destructive. And probably everyone watching has heard inflammation is the cause of all the diseases, right? Even cancer, and it's linked to diabetes, weight loss, resistance. I mean, you name it. But the number one cause of inflammation may surprise you, and it's specific toxins that I refer to as neurotoxins. These toxins come in to your cells of your body, which you have 50 to 70 trillion of, and they drive cellular inflammation. That's the big disrupt. And so, yes, if you're sore shoulder, right, that's inflammation. But systemic inflammation, meaning throughout every cell in your body, that's the danger. That's the killer. That's the one that leads to heart disease, cancer, diabetes, etc. Toxins are the one that nobody really talks about. Yes, high glucose diets, high sugar, high carbohydrate diets, bad diets, period, can drive cellular inflammation, as you see all the conditions there that are linked to inflammation, from Alzheimer's to metabolic syndrome, right? All of it. But the point is that these toxins come in and they get to the cell membranes. They drive inflammation. Now, here's what might surprise some of you. Hormone problems today are epidemic. Yes, diabetes is an example of that. Thyroid condition, Hashimoto's, right? All of these are hormone conditions or simply just not feeling well, anxiety, brain fog. This is your cells not hearing the hormones. Now, doc, right now it's very in vogue to give hormones, whether it's bioidentical hormones or other hormones. There's a time and a place, let me be clear. However, when your cells are inflamed, you can take more hormones and even make your blood work look better, but that doesn't mean you feel better.
Right.
It might feel better for a little bit, but then what happens is that if we don't fix the problem of cellular inflammation, the hormones can't get their message in the cell. The reason is because on every cell are the hormone receptors. That's my little fingers I'm moving, meaning the little antennas that your hormone has to dock to, like your cell phone has to connect to a tower. A hormone has to connect to this tower and then get its message in your cell. And now you burn fat efficiently. You stay lean. You feel good. You have plenty of energy. You sleep through the night. But when inflammation blocks those hormone receptors, now you don't feel well. I don't care how many hormones you take. Your blood work may look better, but you don't feel better. So ultimately, toxin reduction at the cellular level is how we fix the problem.
Unbelievable info here. All right, I have a question for you from Herky Pollock before we move on to a new subject. And Herky wants to know, asking for a friend, what plan of action do you recommend, doctor, that women who are going through menopause or being perimenopausal and their thyroid changes from earlier in life?
Herky, you might get yourself in trouble on this one because you're asking this perhaps for somebody else. Anyway, so, look, perimenopause, moving into menopause is a time when your hormones are naturally becoming lower. So imagine, right? So most people today are taking hormones during that time. And by the way, that can be a big danger because you can take hormones and actually maybe feel a little better, but you can actually develop what is called an estrogen metabolite or a toxic hormone. And those can be rising. And some of those toxic estrogens, like 4-hydroxyestrone, none of you are interested in the name, but when that builds up, it can lead to breast cancer. So a lot of the women taking these hormones, it can lead to other problems, even if you're in fact feeling better. So I say, well, you might be feeling better developing cancer. But the bottom line is there's a time and a place to take a hormone. However, if you understood what I was saying, that inflammation is driving this problem of blocking the hormone receptors, that's the key to perimenopause and menopause, is freeing the cells of inflammation, allowing the hormones, although lower, because it's normal to have lower hormones, getting them to communicate better with the cell. Automatically you feel better.
Brian Bennett wants to know, Dr. Pompa, if you believe medical marijuana can be effective for different health issues, including inflammation.
Yeah, I mean, look, CBD, cannabidiol, these endocannabinoids, they affect, or these cannabinoids affect a system of hormones in our body called an endocannabinoid system. They can reduce inflammation and they can be beneficial. Now, not all CBD is created equal. A CBD product with a small amount of THC from a whole plant, I think, is actually good. Too much THC today, which is, by the way, a good portion of the medical marijuana out there, may be good for certain pain conditions, but ultimately too much of that is not good for the brain and actually can backfire on you and drive a little bit too much inflammation. So you have to be careful with the THC today. They're breeding these plants with much higher levels of THC, which, again, you cross over what nature did. Nature has a smaller amount of THC, a higher amount of this cannabidiol, the CBD, which is, in fact, really good for inflammation.
Carol has a question that I'm not familiar with, so let's see if you are, doctor. Can you speak on autophagy?
Okay, that was what I spoke on earlier. That's autophagy, or aka autophagy.
I just have to tell you, it's the second show in a row I've been corrected as how I pronounce something.
Yeah. I'm dyslexic, so I mispronounce things too. But if you break the word down, it's auto-eating. Phagy in Latin is eating, right? So auto-eating means your body literally is so smart. Remember, in a time of fasting, the body will not eat good tissue and good cells. Through this autophagy, It will literally eat the bad cells. And that's magic. So, here's another really good example of how powerful fasting is in this benefit of autophagy. Many people today don't feel well because their body's attacking itself. It's called autoimmune. Now, you probably weren't diagnosed because the testing for autoimmune is very primitive still. We have a lot of autoimmune conditions where we don't even have tests for. But there's an estimate that 90% of America is in some state of autoimmune. So if you have a food intolerance, that can actually be most linked to autoimmune. So Hashimoto's, thyroid, most gut conditions are autoimmune. The body's attacking itself. So what that means is you have certain immune cells that are in hyperdrive, and they're creating inflammation. So coming off the conversation of how now inflammation is really bad for you. Most inflammation is actually caused from your own body in this hyperimmune state. So how do we fix this? How does your body fix this? Well, in a fasting state, the body will eat out these hyperimmune cells and create a new immune cell that's not hyperreactive. So what we do, similar to that study I mentioned earlier, is we will put people on multiple fasts, right? 5-day fast, maybe every other month, maybe every third month. Some people every month. We just change the type of fast they're doing. And during each fast, the body gets rid of more and more of these bad hyperimmune cells. So eventually you create a new immune system that's not attacking itself.
Makes sense. Let's move on to the virus for a minute now. As more of society is opening back up, we're seeing some more cases out there. And I just saw literally earlier today an article from a doctor here in our area in Pittsburgh, a UPMC doctor, who basically said that the focus in the media is on the rising cases, but he is seeing that the cases that he is seeing, the severity of it is less, and it's requiring less hospitalization. So even though there are people testing positive, the severity of it is way less, and less people are dying from it. It's not really a question. I want to talk a little bit about herd immunity, because you and I have talked about this quite a bunch, and really you helped me to understand it. And I think that a lot of people still don't understand what herd immunity is. And I want to show a graphic up here, Doctor. And if you can kind of maybe walk people through this graphic and really just kind of explain what herd immunity is and why we hear so much about it.
Yeah. I mean, basically we have to hit a certain percent of the population, anywhere from 60% to 70% or more of the population when they get exposed to the virus. Now, remember, infection doesn't equal disease, meaning symptoms, right? So when we get a certain percentage of the population that's exposed, then we have immunity. So now the next person that meets someone who is exposed and has antibodies, okay, now they stop that virus. The virus can't go through that person. This person now has antibodies. They're not going to transfer the virus. So the more of those stop checks or gates that we hit, the virus eventually just goes away. By the way, this is how every virus goes away, not just COVID. All viruses go away through herd immunity. All right. So the point is that when this virus, and by the way, the doctor who said that is correct. Right now, we're seeing more testing. So I can speak for the state of Utah. They increased testing, literally doubled the amount of tests that they're doing. So we're seeing more positives in younger people. So they're going, the virus is surging, and that's all over the news. Well, we're testing more people, and therefore we're getting more positive cases. However, as you pointed out, or he pointed out, the severity cases, what we're not seeing is people with actual conditions, symptoms, if you will. They're not expressing the illness, have actually lessened. So the point is that we need to hit herd immunity to stop this. That's the only thing that stops it. And we need healthy people exposing this, getting exposed. And that's been a pet peeve of mine on social media. Is I've been saying it from the very beginning, not just me. There's other experts saying we need healthy people to get exposed. Unhealthy people, please stay at home. But the rest of us, let's spread this condition. And the faster we do it, the faster we're over.
So help me understand, doctor, on the flip side, what is the argument against herd immunity?
Well, the argument against herd immunity is, oh my goodness, God forbid we have more sick people and therefore more people dying. Okay, look, when this came out, I was in the group who said, okay, we don't know how dangerous this virus is. I don't think anybody did at one point. So I agreed with flattening the curve. I did. And avoidance is absolutely the best way. We could talk about masks, because I'm not a believer that masks actually work. However, avoidance and distancing, social distancing is. Okay, keeping people quarantined, no doubt, will flatten the curve, all for it. But the moment we realized, oh, this virus is really no more dangerous than the flu. So right now, I've looked at the New York statistics. I think they're 0.98%. So when you look at the death rate, it wasn't what we thought. We thought we were going to see 2 million some people dying, and we didn't see that. At the end of the day, it's about the same as the flu. And I have to say, that's even given the numbers that are inflated. The reason they're inflated is because hospitals are getting bonused for COVID diagnosis and COVID cases. So when I went on the New York website, 90%, to be exact, 89.9% of the cases had comorbidities, which means that they were going to die from something else. Right. So they were not just people that were randomly got the virus. They really would have ended up dying of something else. So the point is that they were attributing a lot of deaths to COVID, which in fact wasn't the case. But let's take the numbers for what they are. They're still about the same as the flu. And therefore, we flattened the curve. At this point, we should have shifted over and said, let's get to herd immunity faster. Now, keep in mind, my only concern is if we flatten the curve, and I didn't know the answer to this, but experts actually answered the question. If we flatten the curve, will we hit herd immunity? And their answer was, yes, we will. It'll just take longer. So we may end up going through the summer with cases, but we'll flatten the curve. That's exactly what we're seeing. So we'll end up with the same amount of cases, but it will take longer if we quarantine. So in the beginning, I think it was a good idea. But now we need to keep sick people at home, and healthy people, we need to be spreading this, getting the antibodies. And by the way, if you get these antibodies, this is a great thing. I've been trying to get this virus for quite some time now, purposely getting myself around these people because we want the antibodies. And again, if you're healthy, you're not even going to realize you got exposed, but you're going to have the antibodies.
So Amy wants to know, is COVID easier to catch than the flu?
I agree. I think it is. Looking at the numbers, I think that it is easier. However, for most of us, we would get more symptoms and sick from the flu than we would actually get from COVID. So COVID for healthier people, you probably don't even know you have it. Now, there's even healthier people that have certain conditions could in fact get more symptoms. Now, I don't know if you know who Judy Mikovits is, but she believes those people, younger people that have had a lot of flu shots since 2015. She was a person who was developing these flu shots. She's a scientist, one of the world leading scientists on her. And there's a lot of controversy around her now because she stepped up against Fauci. Long story, she wrote a book about it. But she believes that the COVID strains, not the 19 strain, that are in the flu shots since 2015 are actually creating this firestorm of cytokine reaction in younger people. And those are the people that are getting sick. So she makes a correlation. I think it can be a younger person with a lot of inflammation, diabetes, heart disease, some of these other conditions, they could also get this and get very sick. But for the average person, less than the flu.
So one of the questions I have regarding that is what we saw in New York a month and a half, 2 months ago, where when we talk about the flu, well, when we had a flu season, we didn't really see hospital systems that were overrun. And even though it didn't happen widely over America, there were areas where literally the hospital systems were overrun. So what was different about this that made that happen?
A few theories. There are some theories that there are different strains. these things can change. The strain from Italy, there's a theory that that's the strain that went into New York. I don't know if that's the case or not. But maybe. I think that you have certain populations that have just, again, more unhealthy people. You absolutely see higher numbers, obesity, heart disease, diabetes. You're going to see higher numbers of very sick people. All in all, when you look at the world numbers, this is a condition that attacks that specific group. And most of us will not even know we were exposed.
All right. You touched on masks. I want to talk a little bit about masks. Most businesses these days, probably not in Florida, but here in Pennsylvania and a lot of other places, they won't let you in without a mask. If you don't have a mask, you're not getting in. And, I've even since restaurants have opened back up here in Pennsylvania, I realize they're trying to keep people safe in the way that they think is right. You have to put on a mask when you go to the door. They sit you 4 feet away at a table. You can take your mask off. Then you walk another 6 feet to the bathroom. You got to put your mask on. Tell me what the argument is against wearing a mask.
Well, look, first of all, there's debate whether it works, right? Look, a lot of people feel that it's an infringement on their liberties, their constitutional rights, which you and I, we always try to stay politically neutral, but this whole virus has become political. Everyone sees it, regardless of what side you're on. We can get there in a moment. But the fact is that masks are, in fact, bad for you. And I posted some studies. My wife pulled me into a conversation, as you know, that happens, right? And, I had to actually defend her with some studies. And we can give you some of those links for the show, that there are major concerns, especially if you have a health condition, that masks can actually be bad. But then the argument is do they actually work? And then I don't know if he was a medical doctor, someone from the medical field, posted the Lancet study, which is the study showing that masks do in fact work. And I read the title in Lancet, and I would agree by the title, it sure looked like this would really make his argument. But I dug deeper in the study and realized it made my argument. It showed that there is low certainty for masks, even used correctly, even with the other strategies. Low certainty in a study means that you basically have no evidence. So the study actually showed that distancing actually work, hand washing, but masks, very low evidence, which means no evidence. And again, that wasn't the first study that I looked at. The reason was that was the Lancet study that people use to make the argument, because all they read is the title. But the fact is that it's kind of like catching a mosquito, through a regular fence. Viruses are very small. Now, the N95 masks, which in that study said they might work better. Okay, that was the Lancet study. But the N95 mask is the one that really slows down your exchange between CO2 and oxygen and can really have some complicating factors. Headaches, obviously, triggering some more lung difficulties in people. So, a lot of debate over the mask. But the bottom line is it's a fear tactic. And I think that people wearing them, they feel like they're doing something. They feel like they're helping somebody else. So there is a virtue signal there, and yet they believe, I'm sure, because they hear that it's the right thing to do. So I don't want to be critical of anyone doing it because they believe they're helping. But the reality is a little bit different.
All right. Herky has another question for you in regards to that. Why is the NIH, the CDC, and the WHO all saying that masks are imperative to eradicating the spread?
Yeah, I think that, it's funny, Herky, because when, Fauci himself came out immediately and said, masks don't work. And he was looking at the same studies I was.
60 Minutes, right?
Yeah. And there was another interview where, and so then, I don't know why he changed his tune. Is there political reasons? Is there other reasons? I'm not going to be the first to say I know the reason. But the fact is there's plenty of experts out there who still hold to masks don't work. I think that you'll hear a lot of different conspiracy theories of why, they want us to, wear masks and take our freedom or create fear. A lot of people believe it's the mandatory vaccine push. Maybe, I don't know. And the vaccine conversation is a whole nother conversation, because I believe it's a unicorn. The flu shot, it morphs, it changes, it mutates so many times in a flu season that's why they statistically don't work. And look, if Judy Mikovits, who creates these things, believes it's a unicorn. So I don't know what we're waiting for.
When I'm out exercising outside, going for a walk, and I see people drive by in their cars by themselves. You and I had this conversation on your show last week. I see somebody in their car by themselves with a mask on driving, and it reminds me, or it makes me, it reminds me, it doesn't remind me of this, but it makes me think of somebody jumping in bed by themselves and putting a condom on. I mean, that would be like a...
The only argument is, I would say the condom actually could work. Well, not by yourself, I guess.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, let's just say masks work. I think the message needs to change, and we need to say, unhealthy people, if you think you're at risk. By the way, this is what we do with the flu. If you have the flu, we trust you that you'll stay home. We give you that responsibility. But for other reasons with this virus, we say we don't trust you. We're going to tell you what to do. And again, there's the political debate, right? Of, I can handle myself. Sick people stay home. We need to be spreading this. We need to hit herd immunity. That's why we're still seeing cases. So the healthy people, we do in fact need to get this, spread this. And again, most of you will not even know you were exposed. And we're seeing that with the antibodies, right? We're seeing that with people going, gosh, I have antibodies I didn't even know.
All right. I want to move on to one of my favorite subjects, which is the sun. And you have an interesting take on the sun. I want to show a quick clip, and then we're going to talk about it.
There's a lot of talk about building immunity. Well, let me tell you a simple way to build real immunity, and it's something that you can incorporate any day that it's sunny.
Now, listen, I've been hearing my entire life, back when I was in college, my grandmother would send me articles, stay out of those tanning booths, stay out of the sun. And there are very few people that say it's okay to be in the sun in moderation.
Well, not only is it okay, you have to have the sun or you die. Okay, so let's start there. Without sun, we die. The sun is, look, nobody wants to burn their skin. I would argue it's not good for your skin. If you burn your skin enough, you can cause skin cancer. However, once again, there's a lot of bad information around there. The fact of the matter is it's more complicated than just getting sun to cause skin cancer. And when you look at the study that they did on lifeguards in Australia, it was proof positive. People that got more sun had less cancer. People that worked in office buildings have more cancer, skin cancer we're talking about. So if you're the ones that were in the sun the most had the least. So again, there's a lot of bad information around this. It has more to do with the foods you're eating, especially specific fats, and then getting sun. There's an oxidative component to it. But the bottom line is this. Of course we know that you need the sun to make vitamin D. But the sun even goes deeper than that. So the sun does have a direct input on your immune system, even beyond vitamin D, because there's more than just the sun ray. There's different spectrums of wavelengths that are healthy for you, like infrared, red spectrum, like that you get in the morning. So I love getting morning sun, even evening sun, where you get these different spectrums of light, which we know now actually help you make cellular energy. So yes, sun is critical for your cell health. Sun is critical for your hormone health, your immune system. We need the sun. Don't burn, but get out in it. And yes, you might ask me the question, if you put sunblock on, are you blocking the benefits? And the answer is yes. And again, arguably, sun prevents cancer. And that's not arguably. There's studies that show that. So we need the sun.
You know what? You're putting a smile on my face. I want to show you two versions of the same picture, Dr. Pompa. This is back in the day, 30 plus years ago. This is one of my favorite pictures at my buddy's pool. You see a bunch of us youngsters out having a good old time. And who are the two tannest people here? Your wife and I. Look at that. we loved our son back then, and I know we both still love it today. So
I have seen that picture.
All right. Now, this can be an entire different show, but I just want to touch on it before we start to wrap it up here. Brian Bennett wants to hear your view on vaccines.
Well, it kind of seeped out a little bit, Brian. Look, I'm never, ever going to tell someone not to vaccinate. But what I will say is do your homework and do your research. There's a great movie coming out called the 1986 The Act. And in 1986, something happened. And you'll have to watch the movie to find out, but I'll give you a little blip. What happened is vaccine manufacturers were getting sued. They were getting so much pushback from the public because of reactions that they went to the government and said, if you want us to continue to produce these, you have to make us immune from these lawsuits. And that's what happened. And that was the 1986 Act. Now, the problem is it even took it a step further. Vaccines are the only drugs that you do not have to prove safety studies with. So this becomes a cash cow for big pharma. They don't have to prove safety studies, which is hundreds of millions of dollars. There's no liability for them whatsoever, which is hundreds of millions of dollars or more. So the point is if we just said, let's treat vaccines like every other drug, enforce these companies to do safety studies, we would definitely change the autism spectrum statistics and others that are a concern. If you watch the 1986 Act, you're going to hear information that will stun you. It's covered up. Now, I just recently on my podcast interviewed Bobby Kennedy, who is always been someone amazing, just really for our rights and liberties of health freedom. And he is going after these big companies in September. And according to him, he can't lose. That's how much he has in discovery. So the point is there's another side to this vaccine story. There are a lot of toxins in these things, but beyond that, even their very premise, they stimulate the wrong immune system, and it can create problems even later. So a lot here, Doc. It's a whole show.
It really is. Before we wrap it up, Dr. Pompa, hang with me 1 minute while I give a plug for what we got going on next week on the show. I tell you, we just keep getting better and better. Next Tuesday night, we have got my friend Tristan Truscott and his gorgeous wife, Sabrina. Tristan is an entire chapter in my book, Rare Confidence. I'm calling them entrepreneurs here because they have done so much. I really didn't know how to classify them. Tristan is a martial arts expert who, as he was growing up, turned to the martial arts to give him confidence. And that was one of the reasons why I interviewed him for my book. He's the inventor of the Sartori method. And now Tristan and his wife, Sabrina, who's amazing in her own right, they have a new business where they help people feel comfortable in front of the camera and do lives online. And maybe I need some help feeling a little more comfortable in front of the camera. And then next Thursday night, we have got a wild show for you as my new friend, Judy Phelps, who owns a gun range in Hocking Hills, Ohio. She has a story so shocking from decades ago that really turned her life into one of self-defense. She's a leader in helping women defend themselves, and it is going to be scintillating internet television next week. Dr. Pompa, how can our audience find you online? How can they pick up a copy of your book?
Yeah, if you go to my website, DR, like Dr. DR, and then POMPA.com, drpompa.com. And if you go to, you can get a pre-order because the book, it's just finished the official editing. But if you go to beyondfastingbook.com, you can actually pick up a copy now. Beyondfastingbook.com. And it's a lot more there than what we discussed.
Dr. Pompa, you've been a great guest. I love your points of view. You know, your points of view are not always what you see on mainstream television, and that's what I love about it, because intelligent people really need to seek out opposing points of view and different points of view, and you always bring it, and I can't wait to show up on your show again. You and Mary Lee have a great time there in Florida, my man, and we will talk soon.
Love it. Thank you, Doc.
My man. All right, Dr. Pompa was tremendous. We have got some amazing shows coming up for you. I cannot wait. Follow my Facebook feed to find out what's going on 2 weeks from tonight. It is going to be incredible. The audience was awesome tonight. You had great questions, great comments. I love you. Don't be a stranger. Keep it coming. We got great things ahead. You guys are awesome. Peace.